Well, hello and welcome to my YouTube page. I am Henry Nutt III, pre-construction executive for Southland Industries, sheet metal worker of 34 years, and the author of 7 Principles Creating Your Success in the Construction Industry. You can find this book anywhere books are sold. I am happy that you have decided to join me today on this version of my continued excerpts about all things construction, all things creating success for all people who we desperately need. Today, I have a pretty cool topic that I want to talk to you about, and it is entitled Building a Strong Workforce. We all know, if you're in this industry, we all know that we have a significant shortage of people in this industry. We have a shortage because people don't want to necessarily enter this industry for a whole lots of reasons. We have a ton of people that are exiting this industry because they're at that age where they're going to age out and it's time for the next chapter of their lives to begin. And so we have been at this kind of intersection point of people leaving and people coming in, and not a lot of time of making sure there's an overlap when those things are happening. I think we're doing a better job in regards to how we're trying to be more intentional with passing on information. But we also need to know that it requires us to be more intentional with how we do that. And so I wrote this book back in 2022 because two reasons. One is I obviously want to help create scenarios for people on how to create success and not take for granted that people just know what to do. So the 7 principles were some very basic, common sense approaches to how to get out of your own way. But I don't want to stop there. And I think many times, well, let me just throw this book to a young person. I know all this stuff already. But one thing I've also learned, because I'm a 34-year veteran, 55 years old, that there's some things I forgot. And there's some things that I can say you can take for granted that, well, it's been like this so long that I've always been doing it. No, we all had to start somewhere. And we may have forgotten. And guess what? Life changes. So the way it happened for us doesn't mean it's going to happen the same way for someone else. And the way your journey existed may be a different journey for someone else. And so maybe we can insert some of the ideas and the concepts of what's important, but the journey is going to look different because we're in different times. Think about what our parents told us about when they were young and what they had to do to get somewhere, and whether it's walking through the snow and all that, right? It's just different times, and we have to adapt to different times. And so the other part of this book that was to be significant was putting it in the hands of veterans so they can be reminded of the importance of reflecting on the journey. So when they're talking to someone that is new to this journey, they don't just go back and repeat what they did and how they did it. They can tap into maybe some things that are current, relevant, and important to have an understanding of. So the veterans and the newcomers. And newcomers don't mean kids. We talk to people at different organizations, and they're between 18 years old and maybe 50. So they're not all kids entering the industry. Some of them are coming back for a second, third career path, and they're trying something different. But they still need to understand how it works to be in this industry because it is very unique and specific and dynamic. So a few things we'll talk about in regards to how do you do that, what's important, what can you do. Number one is just being a mentor, putting yourself in a position to help someone else, putting yourself in a position to get involved and to be an example of what good and great looks like. And they don't know if they don't see it. And so you might be the only person that they get to see that actually has a work ethic, that shows up on time, that works really hard, that has ingenious ideas, just conducts himself in a way that's very professional, punctual, kind-hearted, all kind of things that are important for someone to be sustainable in this industry. And so mentoring is really, really important. You think about who's mentored you, who poured into your life, and maybe it wasn't even quote unquote a mentor at that point, but it was someone there that you were able to watch, someone there you got to see, someone there you got to repeat good ideas and good examples that you repeated so that it helps you become better. And so we want to make sure we're mentoring someone. We want to make sure that there's someone or some people in our lives that get to see our lives in a very tangible way so that they can do what we're doing. And it's the good stuff. The next one is training or educating people. Have you ever thought about getting involved in some type of workshop with your company or on your own time where you can go and speak to, say, not even a workshop, but maybe it's a classroom setting and career day at the school, and you have a regular cadence of giving time to some organization that just needs people. Just needs people who are doing their thing in their career and be willing to come down somewhere and talk to some folks who just want to be where you're at. And it's not a magic pill, it's not a magic formula. It doesn't mean everything changes overnight. But you being in the room with the legacy of wealth of information and time and experiences that you have, they need you to get in there and be involved and educate them, train them with your own experiences that you have had. Talking to this group of eager, hungry, tenaciously thinking about what's my next move, how am I going to make it, what's going to hinder me, and listening to you could be the very difference that they need to see and hear to make them and help them become overcoming their scenarios and actually become gainfully employed and find their career path. They need the different trades to come in the room, whether you're a bricklayer, or if you're a carpet layer, you're installing mechanical systems, you're a roofer, whatever it is, they need all of us in this room talking about what we do, because somebody will identify with that thing. And let them choose their own path. But if they don't know any other paths, then yeah, they're going to pick one that someone tells them they should pick. And so how are you getting involved with training and educating people about the career or the job, the profession and the trade that you chose and that you love and is worthy of sharing? Next one is sharing your experiences. We don't want to keep this stuff a secret. But it's really important. I know we didn't get into this industry and this business to be professional speakers. Believe me, it was not part of my aspiration in life. But I do it because I love what I do, and I know that it's not going to come by osmosis to others to figure out how they connect, find their path, latch on, and then run like the wind to become better at whatever it is they're chasing and pursuing. But in order for them to really authentically know what that is, it's got to be something you're sharing from your own heart and your experiences. So we need you to share your experiences, your life stories. That means you got to get transparent. You got to get a little bit raw. You got to become vulnerable. You got to be willing to kind of go there and talk to people about your highs and your lows. They don't need to just hear the best stories that you've got and everything that worked out perfectly. They need to know when it was hard. They need to know when you got fired. They need to know when you got laid off, when things slowed down, and you didn't know what the heck you're going to do. But what you can share with them is that when I went through these hard times, here's how I handled it. And then sometimes those hard times, we did not handle them very well. But if we're still in the game, we're still in the room, that means we didn't give up. Somebody needs to hear that part, that we didn't give up. But we went through a storm. We were discouraged. We got tired. We sat in the corner for a minute and felt sorry for ourselves. We sat in the corner for a minute and thought we just weren't worthy and people just weren't going to treat us fairly, like we didn't belong in this industry. We went through that. We felt it. It was part of us. But we didn't allow that to keep us there. Someone needs to hear that story, not just from me, but from you. It is so important. When we talk about vulnerability, Sometimes it can just become this cliche of a word that almost loses its meaning. But that's what it looks like when you're vulnerable. Is you're willing to share the stuff that doesn't make you look good. It doesn't make you look golden, but it has a real meaning behind it. And it connects people to you in a way that is rich and meaningful and impactful. So be willing to share your story. Be willing to share your experiences at that kind of level, because otherwise everyone's in the dark. They're going down their path and they don't know how to really connect the dots. And when they get to those crossroads of life that are challenging and hard, they don't know what to do. So they quit, because that's what they may have seen their entire life. Nobody finishes anything. And so let them hear how you do it. Let them hear how you've done it. Let them hear how you may have quit, but you came back. They need to hear that story. They need to hear that story from you. The next one is about being an advocate or advocacy work and leadership. What kind of organizations are you involved in? What's important to you in this industry? Think about some of the things that are important for me. Obviously, it's safety from a physical standpoint and to an emotional and mental standpoint. I want people to feel safe at work. I don't want people to get hurt at work. I want people to have healthy lives, so I get involved in the American Heart Association. Lean construction is important to me and our company at Southland. And so we invest in that, and people can become leaders and champions in that space to make sure we're innovative and we're looking at technology and how we can incorporate all these different things that affects our approach and execution plan. So what's important to you? What are those things that you would advocate for? What are the things that you want to be involved in to help this industry grow? You want to share that stuff with people. It's not just about going to work every day, checking in at 6 or 7 o'clock and then leaving at 3 or 3:30 or whatever it may be, then going home. And there's a majority of a group that will do that, and that's all they do. Then there's some people that kind of step to the side and say, you know what, I'm a leader. I'm going to do more. I want to help people. I'm going to stand for something that's bigger than myself in this industry. I'm going to advocate for something. I believe in advocacy. What does that look like for me? What am I doing that is extra and on top of me just coming to work every day? Because it's important to me, not because someone told me I should do it, but it's something that I believe in, so I'm going to do it. I want to better myself. I want to improve how I conduct myself. I want to improve how I want to grow. I want to be considered a leader. I want to elevate in my career. And so I'm going to get involved in things. I'm going to invest in myself in this way that's a sacrifice. And I'm also going to share it with other people. We're not one-dimensional. We're not just a hammer and nail. We're a diverse group of people with diverse thinkers, with a dynamic industry that only survives and overcomes through its people and how we choose to shape ourselves and grow and impact our industry to what it is today. So get involved in something that's bigger than yourself and be willing to share that bigger than something than yourself with some other people. The next one is your cultural integration. So what does that mean? We all know that this industry is in desperate need of people. And we also know that the makeup of this industry is predominantly white males. And we know that those other groups of people, we need to get them involved. And in order for them to get involved and stay involved, is we have to change how this industry treats people. And that's going to come from the leaders that exist today. So I've never seen some of the most powerful, impactful trainings I've ever been in have been when leaders in those companies have humbled themselves, recognize just how powerful they are in their seat, but they're willing to share at a very vulnerable level how important it is for us to work on our diversity movement and campaign, how important it is for us to acknowledge women, how important it is for us to acknowledge people of color, how important it is for us to acknowledge people of different sexual persuasions, and that we need all of you to get into this industry because we are in desperate need for all of you to be successful here And there is nothing that will ever take the place of someone being able to see themselves. If I can see a leader that looks like me, then I have a shot in my heart and mind that I can accomplish what they're accomplishing. Never take that for granted. And because of this dynamic of having over 70% of our industry of white men, and that's just what it is, it's natural for another young white kid to see that leader and gravitate towards that. It's not so natural for someone else of a different ethnicity to necessarily feel like that could be me. And sometimes you're made to feel like it can't be you. And so we need leaders to advocate in that way, to recognize cultural integration doesn't have to be a scary term. The word DEI doesn't have to be a scary term. Just coin it to, I want to be a better version of a human being. That's what I want to do. I want to be a better version of a human being than what I was before, maybe before I knew better. And so we can do that, and we can advocate for that, and we can exemplify that, and we can teach ourselves or grow and be willing to learn from others, and then exemplify that in our lives, and then administer that on our jobs, and give people opportunity that they deserve. We can make a difference. That is part of our responsibility as leaders. That is what we want to do to help build a stronger workforce. Lastly, I want to talk about networking. It's so important that, like, I was in the classroom about a week ago talking to a group of students, and one thing I learned and told them is hey, you're in here with about 50 of you, and you're all going to go your different directions when this class is over. But I guarantee you, if you stay in the industry, you're going to run into each other again. Somebody in those table will be somebody's boss, and the vice versa, and maybe 3 years later, the roles will switch. So remember how you treat people, because you'll see them again. But sharing with them how important this is your first network. Your instructor is part of your network, and all these people in the room with you are part of your network that one day you might need them for something, and build on that. And so how we're educating the folks that we're getting in front of about the importance of networking. We all know this industry is very small, and we will absolutely run into the people that we have seen before. One of my journeymen, when I was a first year apprentice, didn't see him for over 20-something years. And he came to work for Southland 2 years before he was going to retire. And I was able to give him a retirement party. He was hard, but he treated me fairly. And I remembered that. And I was proud to give him a retirement party. If he was just a complete jerk every day of my career, his party wouldn't have existed, because I had the power to do it or not do it. And so you just never know whose path you're going to cross 1 month from now, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. And we want to educate this workforce about networking and helping them understand how they can improve that network. So I hope this helps you. This is something that I've been wanting to talk about for a little while. I think it's really important that we recognize how we're building this workforce, how we're strengthening our workforce. And these are just a few things that I believe we can do. There's a lot more, obviously, that we can do. These were the things important to me. And I hope that you get something from this. If you do, leave me a comment in the chat box. Like this on YouTube, share it with a friend. But more importantly, comment. Tell me something that you think was good or it could be better, and how we can improve this industry so that we can continue to build a strong workforce. Thank you. Make it a great day.